Opened in 1922, often regarded as the Temple of Speed. That's right, it is Monza, and we are here for the real race, Super Trofeo Esports, the Lamborghini Monomake Championship, online for the second race ever in 2023 in this, the fourth season of competition. And I am delighted, once again, to welcome the man on the screen next to me, Mr. Chaz Draycott, alongside me, Paul Jeffrey. Chaz, welcome and good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir, indeed. It's fantastic to be back once again. It only feels like about 5 minutes since the last round of the championship. There was that much buzz generated by it, so much excitement going on, and I've been living off that buzz all week. It's been great fun to see just how much of a positive feedback we've had from it as well, and everyone was loving it, and I mean, we were as well. We certainly had a great time at Paul Ricard, but it's great to be, even at a virtual sense, at the Temple of Speed at Monza. Of course, Italian cars, mainly Italian Championship and Italian Circuit, and the finest of them as well. Slipstream is going to be the aim of the game tonight. Now, these cars don't put a humongous hole in the air, but it's certainly going to have an effect. So we may see more mind games here tonight than we saw at Paul Ricard. I can't wait to get going.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely tremendous. It's a great circuit. It's a staple of the world of sim racing, it has to be said. There are often a lot of races at Monza. And as you say, slipstreaming, the field's really close. The driving talent is so incredibly high, Chaz. And it's going to be, we'll look at qualifying in a few minutes' time, but it's going to be another one where any one of these drivers could get into that top four and make their way through to the final at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot riding on it, actually, and that's what's so important about this whole series. But we don't even have strategy to think about. They're not going to be slipstreaming to save fuel. It's simply just for track position and sticking with one another. We'll have a look at the format of the series, though, and, of course, the racing that we're going to be seeing on our screens. As you'll all see now, we're going to go through it bit by bit and pick it apart for you. It takes a bit of time to explain, but it's a fantastic layout and a fantastic format. Let's take a look.
Open to drivers from Europe, APAC and NALA regions, the real race Super Trofeo Esports season is here. In Europe, an online qualification process across 4 European tracks will take place, with the top 24 drivers from each session progressing to qualification races. Additionally, directly opposite the Fanatec Arena, Lamborghini will be hosting dedicated AK Esports simulation rigs for members of the public to attempt to set a hot stint time. One direct progression to the regional final can be secured at Paul Ricard, with a further opportunity at Spa-Francorchamps and 2 places up for grabs at the Nürburgring. 3 further spots are reserved for a dedicated special Abu Dhabi event. In North America, hot stint qualification begins at Indianapolis on August 14th and August 17th at Suzuka for the APAC region. In both of these regions, the top 24 drivers from qualification will progress directly to their own respective online qualification and finals races. The regional final for European drivers, earned with a top 4 finish during the qualification races, will be held on site at the famous Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit at the Fanatec Arena. 2 races will be held on July the 30th, with 23 drivers fighting it out to take the overall championship victory, and with it, the opportunity to join the Automobile Lamborghini esports team. That's quite the challenge for our drivers. We already saw last time out, Chaz, at Paul Ricard, the racing can be so incredibly intense. In fact, we saw a last lap pass to get into those top 4 positions. So should we take a look at some of those highlights now and pick apart some of the drama, some of the spectacle, some of the excitement that occurred at the French circuit, which often gets criticised, but actually produces some great racing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and the conditions were very interesting too. It was the talking point for a lot of the race that it started raining in the early stages. Some of the drivers took the risk and went for wets. Others decided not to and wanted to stay on the slicks, and obviously that risk was the main part of the plan for a lot of the drivers. They knew that it could change, but they just wanted to stay out there on slicks and try and make the most of them. There was some fantastic driving, though. Great car control by a lot of them, but wonderful overtaking as well. It wasn't like they were all tiptoeing around in the tricky conditions, were they? They were still going at each other hammer and tongs, as we say.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And we said this during the live broadcast. For how do I put it, less established drivers, shall we say, or drivers like ourselves, where our skill ceiling is somewhat lower, we'd be tiptoeing around scared to death of taking the car off the track and probably visiting the scenery. But the racing was just as hard in the wet conditions, and those who could adapt are the guys that came out best. In this particular fight, Stefano Bonsignore, the driver that finished in 4th place, the last of the qualifiers, he was in the middle of absolutely everything all the way through, and right at the death got that overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. He was certainly one of the drivers that really stuck it out all the way through that one. There was a very scary moment right at the end there, which we just caught. Tiny bit of contact down the back straight. Could have completely ended his race, but he did a fantastic job. He was in the right place at the right time and taking the opportunities where they came to him. And obviously he joins Dirkop, Larito and Seminara in going through as the original top 4, the first top 4, I should say, the quartet going to the Nürburgring for that grand final. And to be fair, I think now for the drivers, every round we go into here, we're going to see, I don't want to call it desperation, but it's going to be a little bit more need from the drivers. They're going to look a lot more urgent in the way they race, aren't they? Because there's less time to get it all done now.
Well, that's it. The pressure's starting to mount. I mean, when we take a look in a moment at the entry list, you'll see that 12 drivers are returning for this race that we saw at Paul Ricard. And of course, to recap, as we said at the top of the show, you can qualify online in the Assetto Corsa Hot Stick competition. The 12 of those have come back. And also, Chaz, it's worth bearing in mind, I'm going to throw to you for this one, not only are the drivers fighting and looking to take a prize and a win, the viewers at home can also get themselves a handy little gift.
They absolutely can, yes. If you are watching this evening, there will be a QR code come up over the course of the event. It'll be somewhere up here on my side of the screen on the left, and we'll be able to obviously get you registered, and you'll be able to click a link as well within the YouTube chat at certain points over the night. But you can get either a €300 or €150 gift card for the Lamborghini online store. The drivers' prizes as well, of course, get them through to the final event, which will be wonderful to see. But if you are a viewer and do register for each of these events, every time you do that, you can then get entered into a final draw at the very end of the season as well. So it all mounts up. And at the end of the day, when have you heard of a competition when you can get something just for watching? It's fantastic to get everybody involved like this, Paul. And, well, I mean, they've got a great reason to watch anyway in the form of this incredible racing and our beautiful faces. But even still, they've got more reason in the fact they could win some cracking gear.
Yep, absolutely. And as you say, just to reiterate that point, every time you enter, you get an entry in to the final prize draw for the VIP Experience Day at Lamborghini. So if you've entered last time round at Paul Ricard and didn't win, fear not. Keep going. Throughout the course of the season, more entries, more opportunity to win that grand final prize, as well as, of course, the cash vouchers that you see on your screen. So really good for viewers, really good for drivers. And, of course, the biggest prize that these drivers are racing for is their opportunity to potentially join the Automobile Lamborghini Esports team. So 350 or €150 to spend in the LamborghiniStore.com and the final VIP Experience Day. Register, click that QR code, get your details in. Doesn't cost you a single penny, euro, cent, or whatever your denomination of choice is, and you can get something great out of it, as well as enjoying a great broadcast, one hopes.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a wonderful team behind us here as well, which we're very grateful to have. It's fantastic to be working together again, Paul. Honestly, it's always a good laugh. And I'm sure we're going to get another fantastic race out of this. Like I say, it's going to be very different to what we saw at Paul Ricard because of the slipstreaming. There's not as many technical sort of difficult corners here at Monza, but I'd say one of the real pinch points in these cars is going to be Ascari because of the fact it's a mid-engine car. It's not quite on GT3 specification, so it's got a lot of downforce, but it doesn't use it and balance it in the same way as a GT3 car. Those rear ends are going to be swinging around a lot tonight. There's going to be a big pendulum effect through there, so I think we're going to see a couple of spins there and maybe a few drivers outbraking themselves as well with a little bit of overconfidence into the chicanes.
Yeah, especially when there's 20-plus drivers on the grid all fighting for those positions. So let's take a look at who those 20-plus drivers are that are taking part in the race this evening. As I mentioned at the top of the show, 12 returning names. Francesco Foresti in car number 1 and Marco Lomi as well, 2 names that you will recognise from last time out. Drivers from all around Europe are participating in this European series. Simon De More, another driver that would expect to do good things in car number 8.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very good spread, isn't there? We've got two Ukrainian drivers there as well, Ivan Stella and David Kolochai in cars 3 and 6. And then even further down the order, we've got the Czech driver, Leonardo Grigis. We've got the two French drivers of Florian Scheisel and Riccardo Di Marchi as well. It's just a fantastically international grid. And that's the best thing about sim racing as well, Paul. We went and touched on the discussion of accessibility within sim racing and the fact that these drivers can do this from all over the world. And it's just wonderful to see that they've literally taken that and run with it. You know, we've got people from all over. It's really nice to see. But there are some great names in there, and certainly some drivers. I mean, look at that for a name, Lucio Alberto Mugavero. It sounds like a centre forward, doesn't it, for a really top Italian club? But it's just such a good racing driver name, as we'd say. I really do wish the best for all of these drivers out there tonight. And I think, to be fair, we're going to have some awesome battles. And again, we will have drivers that we may not have heard of or seen on our screens before that could come out of the woodwork and surprise us here at Monza.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about this format. It is a shop window for these drivers to represent themselves, represent Lamborghini in this championship. And as I say, potentially earn the right to fight for an opportunity to become a professional paid full-time esports works Lamborghini driver. Just going back to the entry list for a moment, a couple of those names, David Kolochai that you mentioned, finished 5th last time out at Paul Ricard, 1 place away on the final lap. He lost that qualification position, so he'll be looking for a little bit of a redemption story during this race. Leonardo Grigis as well finished in 8th at Paul Ricard, so he's looking for another opportunity to get himself in the window of qualification for that grand finale. And speaking of qualification, Chaz, we are pretty much done with the qualifying session on track. They've had 30 minutes to set their time. So we're only a few moments away from entering the start of this 1 hour race and taking a look at who is where on the grid and who's in the best position to go forward and get a big result.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we learned also at Paul Ricard was the fact that not all of the numbers that we saw on the drivers' cars were completely representative of their positions in the race in the end. Because, of course, the numbers they have on the car are the order in which they finish the qualification period before they come into this event. So it's technically like a seeding number.
Yeah.
You know, the drivers basically similar to like you would have seen in the 1990s in the BTCC. You know which drivers to look for because they've got the smallest numbers on the cars because that's how well they did the season before. And I'm a massive nerd for that and I love it. So it really does excite me, the fact that we can get that representation, you know. I mean, look at that. Francesco Foresti down there in 19th place in car number 1. So he's been quickest all week in the hot laps and in the qualification. And then all of a sudden, he's just had a bit of a poor quali, not quite done as much as some of the others. And he's down there in 19th. I mean, Corrado Ciriello as well. He's up there in 20th. It's fantastic to see that there's that variation. And again, it just shows us how their week's gone compared to how tonight's going. So it's almost like a form guide, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, it is. It's a really good way of looking at it. So let's take a quick look now at the grid that we're speaking about. Marco Lomi is the man that puts the car on pole position. That is car number 2 that you see on screen. Pavlo Polvachuk in 2nd place, just ahead of Florian Schiebel in 3rd position. Corrado Cirillo, he's a driver, finished 20th last time. 4th on the grid for this race. Good opportunity to move forward. In 5th place is car number 7, the brown coloured machine that you see there. That's Pozniakov in 5th, just ahead of Grigis in 6th. Grigis, another driver, had a disappointing time last time out in 8th. Will be looking to move forward. Sorrow 7th on the grid, just ahead of Stella in position number 8. Then DeMarchi in 9th position, car number 13. So he's overperforming compared to his hot lap qualification process. And then around out the top 10 is Grillo in car number 9.
We then have David Kolochai in car number 6 in 11th place ahead of Johannes Weiss. Car 24, the lowest seed here in the very middle of the pack. We then have Rosario Stimoli, car number 5 is in 13th place alongside Nicola Desi, the brown coloured machine on the right hand side of his shot there. You can see them jumping about as they make setup changes just ahead of the race. Car 23, Danilo Magnani, and the car that qualified just ahead this week in 16th position is Arturo Granella. They're right together on the 8th row of the grid. Then we have Francesco Adamu in 17th, that's car number 16 on the left hand side. That gorgeous sort of dark crimson colour, I quite like that colour combo there. And then on the right hand side as well, number 8, which is Simon De Mori. There is the bright yellow car though, number 19, which is Francesco Foresti, I should say, car number 1, the highest seed for this race. And then Lucio Alberto Mugavano, Mugavero, I should say, just behind. And then the final row of the grid, Paul, we have Bernardini and Stevanella. Certainly a challenge for us with northern accents to get these Italian names right. But look at this gorgeous overhead shot here of Monza, mate. What a fantastic grid we've got and a great setup for this event.
Yeah, it gets a lot of criticism, Monza. I think it's a circuit that in the non-professional esports way is a little bit overused in club racing and online lobbies for sim racers. There's maybe a little bit of fatigue for it, for drivers in that regard. But in terms of professional esport competitions like this one, it never fails to produce incredible racing. There are a few danger points for these cars, namely the entry into T1 and, of course, Ascari, as you mentioned as well, could be a little bit of trouble for some of these drivers. The Curva Parabolica, or the Curva Michele Alboreto, as it's called now, is a good opportunity where we've seen side-by-side racing before. So one thing, apart from speed, that you could use to sum up the circuit is opportunities for drivers to overtake. So qualifying, Chaz, is important, but as soon as the green flag goes and the lights go out, you've really got a great opportunity wherever you are to move forward from where you start this race, don't you?
Yeah, you have to play the game here at Monza, stay within the slipstream range of the cars around you and make sure that you don't lose that train. Now, one thing I want to do over the course of this warm-up lap that we're going to get here is have a look down the order and figure out who we don't have on our grid, because we've got 22 cars in the field and 24 of them qualified for this event. So we are unfortunately missing a couple of drivers out there, which is a big, big shame. I think one of them may be the number 14 car, it is, of Matthijs Leitao. He doesn't seem to be here. Well, he's a bit late, isn't he, to be fair, considering his name. But he doesn't seem to be on the grid.
I think Pacazocco's missing as well, yes, which is a shame because he has an incredibly cool name.
He does, yeah, Luigi Pacazocco.
Qualified in 17th position, finished 9th at Paul Ricard. So a driver that we expect to be in the conversation for a top 10, so that's a real shame that Pacazocco's not here for this race.
One thing as well, Paul, I'm not sure if both of us had forgotten this, so I apologise if this throws you under the bus, but I'm admitting that I forgot this as well. Marco Lomi at Paul Ricard qualified on pole, and I think because it happened so early in the race we forgot, but he was leading before the changing conditions, and then he had a colossal disconnection, didn't he?
That's correct. That is correct.
It's really his chance now to prove not only that his internet connection is better than it was last week, which is obviously what we substitute out for a mechanical failure or something going wrong with the car. We wouldn't want the simulator to do that because, there would always be people that felt hard done by, or people would have more regular failures than others. For example, the fact that it's down to real-life hardware and real-life conditions is still down to that element of chance. But Marco now has once again put it on pole position and once again shown himself to be the quickest out there. He was about a tenth and a half clear at the end of qualification, so I think he's definitely the guy to beat as long as his internet holds up here and the conditions stay as they are. It's looking nice and dry and toasty at Monza. It's rained every time I've actually been there in person, but still, these cars looking glorious right now. They honestly do look like GT3 cars, but they were sort of, in no disrespectful way, drawn by a 12-year-old. They've got all the exciting edges and bits on them, haven't they? Like, it's exactly what I'd draw if I wanted to do this. I've got the mind of a 12-year-old, and they excite me looking at them, even in a virtual world.
Yeah, I could not agree more. They're fabulous pieces of engineering, 600-plus brake horsepower, ABS and traction control, of course, because in real life there's a range of different drivers, from professionals to gentleman competitors race them. So they've got some of the trickery to help make life easier behind the wheel, but because of their simplified downforce compared to a GT3, the cars are a little bit less compliant. They are a little bit lazier on turning. They tend to move around a little bit on the tyres more than, let's say, the precision that's required in a GT3 car. And for these drivers, I would think it's fair to say they've probably got moderately less experience behind the wheel of one of these as compared to the standard fare in ACC that's GT3. And that's also an interesting aspect of who can pick up the nuances of driving a car at the limit, such as this, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and it is a lot more of a niche considering that it's a car within its own class. It doesn't stick to GT3 regs, as we say, but look at the state of it. It's gorgeous. The Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. One of my favourite things about this car is actually that intake over the top of the rear engine cover. It's almost like a Formula 1-esque air intake, isn't it? It looks really, really cool the way it prods up. There's Marco Lomi. He's certainly going to be focused going into this one. He's maybe a bit nervous as well, Paul, because when your internet disconnects like it did last time for him, that's not something he would have had any control over at the end of the day. So it's just knowing whether that's going to happen. As someone that's always suffered with internet issues until very recently, I know his pain, and I really hope for him, and of course Polovchuk as well, that we can have a good, clean, fair fight with the two of them that isn't affected by any outside elements. But we're just about to get underway, and I'm starting to vibrate with excitement here. This is great.
Absolutely. So before the green flag is waved, remember, you've got a chance to win at home. You see the QR code on your screen. Give that a scan, register, and be in with a chance to win 300 or 150 euros to spend at the Lamborghini online store, and that also goes towards your allocation of entries for the grand final prize that we will draw at the end of this short but rather intense season here at the Lamborghini The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. But enough of that one. We have got a motor race on our hands. Marco Lome is the man that leads the field. We're waiting for that green light to disappear at the top of the screen, and we will go racing. Can Lome get some redemption here at Monza as the green flag is waved? We are go for Lamborghini The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports. Polovchuk in second position, holding the outside line just behind. Ishizel in third place, gets on the grass, loses some momentum, but Lome at the front of the field is the first into the chicane, runs a little bit deep on exit as well, but manages to keep the car on the racetrack as 22 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 cars make it through the opening two corners.
They do indeed. There was a little bit of touching here and there, but it's almost inevitable at that first Rettifilio chicane here at Monza. And Lome leading Polovchuk at the moment. Polovchuk is tucked right up behind him, but it was Schiesel that was trying to come through the inside, and there was nearly three wide behind them as well. I think it was actually Pozniakov that was trying to poke his way through. There's cars around, and that's the number 9 of Grillo. Oh, dearie me. It was a very instinctive turnaround to try and flick the car back, but he's basically just driven head on into traffic there. That won't go down well at all, unfortunately, for Grillo, maybe just out of frustration, but it may have ruined someone else's race as well. And that's the thing in those moments, Paul, you have to take the compromise, realise that you've had a spin, and just hold the brakes, just sit where you are. Don't try and throw the car back into oncoming traffic, unfortunately. Yeah,
a bit of a clumsy move there, as you say. It's the unfortunate inevitability almost of this circuit in a packed field of competitive drivers. Some will make it through, others will be left to rue their mistake. But Florian Schiesel now in third position, trying to find a way past further down. Francesco Adamu in 15th position in the attractively liveried red, gold and white Lamborghini, holding on to the back of the pack. And these first few laps are absolutely critical for these drivers to carve out a bit of clear space for yourself on track and also move forward with three wide almost down into Michele Alboreto. Johannes Weiss is the man on the outside in car 24. A little bit of a kiss, runs wide, loses position, loses momentum. Work to do as we run down into T1 for the second time in this race.
Yeah, that was Magnani there, just trying to come through down the inside, give him a little bit of a kiss, and now he's actually making a move on the car in front of him as well. You don't need to move over on each other in a straight line, guys. You need to just stay in a straight line, do your own thing. Look at this, though. Johannes Weiss says, thanks very much. I'm going to go down the inside of all of you. He knows he's overdone it, and he had to take the chance. There's contact in the background as well, and I think maybe Adamu is the car that's been spun around. He bounced off the inside of the car next to him. We'll have to wait and see exactly who that was. The timing screen takes a bit of time to update here as they go through each sector. It's Desi that's got the fastest lap on that initial opening circulation, but a little bit of desperation is not the word I wanted to use, Paul, but it's certainly one that comes to mind in these early stages as people try and battle for every inch of the road that they can. Maybe just overdoing it, knowing that it's an hour-long race. You don't have to throw it at each other, to be fair, do you? You just have to wait for your chances to come, settle into a rhythm. But some of them just don't want to wait for that. You can't tell them, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of frustrated driving, I think it's fair to be said, throughout the course of the field. Ricardo De Marchi, that we're looking at in 7th position at this moment in time, will be one of those frustrated drivers. 7th is good overall, but don't forget you need to be in the top four drivers at the checkered flag in order to progress, and March has still got some work to do to make his way through, especially considering there are no pit stops in this race. Let's have a look at the replay on the opening lap. This is down to the second chicane. 24 goes deep. Unfortunately, that means you've got one-way facing Grillo, car number 9. Bit of a rough, as you say, Chaz, really, in that scenario, just like in real life. Hold the brakes, let the field go through, and then put the car in the right direction. So a little bit uncomfortable to see those kind of moves at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just a bit of impatience. I think he just wanted to flick the car back around. Look at this. This is very close. Johannes Weiss now side by side with David Kolotchai, car number 6 on the right-hand side of car number 24. The two of them squeezing each other a little bit in the early stages of the start-finish straight just to try and get in each other's head. But down the inside goes Kolotchai. Johannes Weiss goes for one cutback, then the other. He needs to be careful because the number 1 machine of Francesco Foresti is behind him, and that's not a subtle car to have in your rearview mirror. Neither is this one. This is Ivan Stella in the number 3 machine. 9th place for him at the moment. He's got Sorrow in front, Desi behind. All of them just trying to find one way around each other or the other. Oh, Sorrow moves back over to the right, gives a little bit of a kiss there to Stella. Is Stella going to make it through? No, not quite. Racing in VR as well, which is really interesting to see. You don't always see that at this sort of level. People tend to prefer triple screens over VR because of the stability you get in terms of your viewpoint. I've actually seen a number of drivers in my leagues over on different simulators where they've actually got worse based on VR, because while you do have the spatial awareness and the peripheral vision, the actual depth of what you can see is different, and it's harder for people to judge. Anyway, away from that, Johannes Weiss is stuck in this sort of quintet of cars right now, just behind David Kolotchai. The battle behind him's gone on, and he needs to sort of forget about it and just focus forwards. That's easy to do though, isn't it, really, in these circumstances, Paul, is watch your mirrors instead of just looking at what's ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. Johannes Weiss is in a good position at this moment in time. He's got a bit of breathing space to Foresti behind, which is exactly what he needs. He wants to be concentrating on what's happening ahead now. He's looking at Kolotchai for the rundown into Michele Alboreto. Does he have the overlap? He goes to the inside. Kolotchai gives him the racing room. Johannes Weiss gets the deal done on the brakes, and that is the move for 13th position. A good pass for Johannes Weiss. He gets a good run off of Alboreto as well. A little bit squirrely on corner exit. This gives an opportunity for Kolotchai to recover almost immediately. The retaliation comes right off the bat. Now Johannes Weiss has the inside line. This is what he needs. He has the advantage coming into the first chicane, but can Kolotchai do anything about it on the brakes? Will he brave it into the braking zone? No, he doesn't. He slips back in behind his rival as somebody further up the road goes for a skirt, and then we're facing the wrong direction, and what looked good suddenly turned into a bit of a mess. Unfortunately, Johannes Weiss is the one that misses out and drops all the way down the order.
I don't think there was contact there. I think he just lit it up on his own. Oh, there's definitely contact there, though, and it's unlucky for some. Number 13, Demarchi, turned around by Pozniakov. And neither of them would have wanted to be in that situation. Pozniakov would certainly be screaming, "It was not me, Your Honour," as Demarchi gets back on with it now. Shake of the head as well. He's clearly not happy about it, and understandably so as well. It wasn't his own little mistake or anything. Just got a big punt in the rear, and obviously with a mid-engine car like this, as soon as you upset that rear end, it's just going to go completely around. It's not like a front-wheel drive touring car where you can just plant your foot, make a lot of noise and get it the right way, and the same situation happens in the background. Was that Stella going around in that situation? I think it might have been Desi actually in car 19. I'll probably be wrong. I was indeed. It was Stevenella, sorry, but still, it's one of those moments, isn't it? Once it's going, it is going, gone. Back to Riccardo Demarchi, car number 13, trying to hold off David Kolotchai. He's now going to be, he's just got to take his time now, hasn't he, Paul, to get his head back in the game. It's so easy to let your mind slip after a moment like that.
Yeah, it really is, as Kolotchai is very much on the attack again, just like we saw on the previous lap. But two perfect examples of how easy it is to lose the car on your own or to have some assistance from a rival. Everything is on such a knife edge on this circuit in these cars. You strip all the aero out of it, you want to be as fast as you can in a straight line. That puts the car up on its tippy toes, and that makes it all the more perilous for our drivers. Riccardo Demarchi is the man on the defensive though. Can Kolotchai now get a pass again, following the dramas of the previous lap? Kolotchai has the outside line, as we've seen more than once. Demarchi comes across onto him though, a little bit of contact. Demarchi is losing his head a little bit and gets spun round for good measure. Kolotchai, not one, not two, but three rat-a-tat-tats to the back of Demarchi. Demarchi waves his arms in the air. My advice to you, Sunshine, is to get the car on the racetrack rather than remonstrating with no one. But Demarchi, suitably frustrated. 2 contacts in 2 laps, and 22nd position is the reward for the Italian.
Francesco Foresti was involved in contact as well there in the background. The number 1 machine was spun around, and then he eventually took to the gravel. But it was one of those moments, though, I'm afraid, for Demarchi there, where he sort of came over to the left-hand side a little bit on the brakes. Sometimes these cars do move around on the brakes, so it may not have all been down to his input, but there just wasn't the room there. He got the one tap and then the other. I can't say the final contact was on him at all. He was maybe just trying to compromise the fact that he'd had a push and wanted to get on the brakes, stabilise the car a little bit. And of course, the frustration did show through, and it was justified, I must say. He wouldn't have been happy with it, especially as it's 2 times in 2 laps, as you say, Paul. He's been turned around. Marco Lomi, look how calm he looks right now. He's barely even looking down the start-finish straight, checking his timing screen, checking whatever information he's got coming through on that left-hand monitor, and just controlling this race right now, looking very good at this moment in time, taking a nice short line down the inside of Curva Alboreto, scratching the nose as well. He's loving it.
Yeah, but we've seen Marco Lomi in a comfortable position before, and it's all gone wrong, so there's plenty of jeopardy still ahead of Marco Lomi at the front of the field. 1.6 seconds is the advantage to pull off Chuck in second, Schiesel in third, and then Corrado Ciarello is the last of the men that are going to go through to the grand finale in that 4th position. Magnani, that we're looking at now, in 10th place, fancies his chances of moving up the running order. Desi is the driver that we see in front. Desi runs a little bit deep, compromised on corner exit. Magnani tries to get the power down earlier, use the run all the way through the Curva Grande to have another strike into the second chicane. But again, we talked about the knife edgeness of the cars. We talked about how on edge these cars are. You've really got to be confident and comfortable in a move to make it happen. As we're seeing, there we go. That's Ivan Stella going for a run into the scenery. Stella, monster save there. A bit of contact with the wall as well. Gets on the brakes, lets the field pass through. And if I'm Ivan Stella now, I'm going to be thinking, what just happened? And I am very hot in VR, so well done me for using it.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I'd have been throwing up all over the place now. I get motion sickness if I blink too hard. But still, that was a massive moment. And again, it's just what happens when the drivers have the cars moving around a little bit on the brakes. You know, if you do try and push your luck and get too close to one another, it can either be a situation where you look like the bad guy because you've moved over a bit on the brakes and pushed the other one off, or you've just put yourself in a jeopardising situation where the other guy's car moves, makes contact with you, and the speeds that you're doing at Monza, you cannot take that risk. And unfortunately, I have to say it, that some of them are paying the price right now for pushing their luck. We've also had an issue for Leonardo Grigas, who's got a 15-second penalty added, which is very apt, actually, because he's car number 15. But he's not going to be finishing where he is on the road if things stay how they are. There's plenty of time left in this race, though, Paul. Although I must admit, the fact that we've nearly done 15 minutes here at Monza is no surprise, because it's been so exciting already. It's flying by in a way. But Stella is now dropping down the order after that humongous accident. But it's amazing, and a testament to the car that he's managed to carry on. We'll have to keep an eye on whether he comes in the pits.
Now, you say exciting. I'd actually say it's been a little bit frustrated, these opening 15 minutes or so. I think everybody just needs to calm down a little bit. You alluded to there's a bit more pressure now as we get into the second round of the championship, as we're seeing an overtake of 1 and 2 cars. That was lucky. 11 got out of the way and allowed Foresti through. Otherwise, that would have been a huge accident. But everybody needs to chill out a little bit now, I think. We're all getting a bit traumatic. There's been a few clunky accidents and manoeuvres. And compared to Paul Ricard, where everything was very, very serious and very professional on track, at the moment it's a little bit too much squabbling for my taste. But Foresti, instead of being late on the brakes, is early on the brakes, and his prize is to be completely mullered into the chicane, and Francesco Foresti's day is done.
Stefanella, I don't know what he was doing there. He was just going down the inside, and I mean, on
never
top
going to
of
happen,
that,
was it?
It was the follow-through as well. It was like something out of Banger Racing. He just kept his foot pinned over the middle of the chicane and just pushed him out of the way. It was not good to see at all, and you're absolutely right with the word clunky, Paul. That's definitely been the way it's been, I'm afraid, at the moment. It's been great racing near the front where they've just sort of been going about their own business, but some of the battles we've seen, it has just looked a little bit like they're just trying too hard, and they're not all in a big train or anything, like they're trying to stay in slipstream with each other, as we predicted they might be. They're all in these little duos and just on their own. Look, we've got a duo going on here between Johannes Weiss and Stefanella, but then behind them there's not even much of a duo going on. It's all individual performances at this moment in time, and well, nobody's getting an award, I can tell you that. Stefanella down the inside, Weiss tries to squeeze him, and again,
come on, boys, what's going on?
Weiss didn't need to squeeze him to the inside that much. He can just let him through down the inside and then get a run on the exit. It's all just, it's like they've got a 3-lap race to get this done, isn't it?
Yeah, so everybody's engaged in idiot mode at this moment in time, and Johannes Weiss has a 5-second penalty attached to his name as well for good measure, so his disappointing couple of moments gets a little bit worse. But for you watching at home, to make up for some of the drama that we've seen on track, scan that QR code, because you could be in a chance to win 300 or 150 euros worth of vouchers. And also, and it's probably a bad time to say this based on the ridiculousness that we've seen up to this point, the hot lap stint qualification process for Barcelona is open. So if you head into Assetto Corsa Competizione, you go on to the special events, you'll see that hot stint qualification. It's free to join. You can set a time, and if you make the top 24 before 10 a.m. CST on the 26th, you'll give yourself a ticket to come race with us at Barcelona as we see Granola off into the serial.
Yeah, Granella, they're certainly going to be asking somebody for some milk at his side of the circuit, I'm afraid. He just had a little bit of a moment. Whether he was turned around or not remains to be seen, but again, it's another car that isn't on the black stuff. We actually saw as well, as he came back onto the circuit, he nearly got rear-ended by the number 1 machine, I think it was, so Foresti behind him. There was certainly nearly a bit of contact there, and he managed to get away with it. This is actually a car that's in one piece at the moment. Florian Schiesel in 4th position, chasing down the man with the fastest lap of the race, Corrado Ciriello. And what a great job these guys are doing in that top 4 at the moment. These are the all-important positions, and what's even better for them is knowing that the car behind them has got a 15-second penalty. They will see that on whatever timing tower they have on the left-hand side of their screens in the simulator as well. So they will know that Grigas is going to be under pressure to make up for that 15-second gap. And right now, he will not be progressing through to the finale at the Nürburgring. I'm going to touch wood when I say this, but Marco Lomi is doing all he can do at the moment. And so too, as well, is Pavlo Polovchuk. He had a bit of a lively race at Paul Ricard. Didn't end up getting a qualification place to come through, Paul. But right now, I mean, he's only 1.6, 1.7 seconds behind our race leader. So he's putting in some great pace of his own, the Ukrainian. It's awesome.
Yeah, very strong drive from all 4 of these guys in the top 4 positions at the moment. And as we say, you need to get in that top 4 to qualify, but it's also important to finish as high in that top 4 as you can, just to put a marker against your name for your rivals. If you can beat, if you're Schiesel, let's say, in 4th place, all 3 of the guys in front of you, when it comes to the Nürburgring, are going to say, yeah, I've already beat him, and I can beat him. It's important to get one over on them, to start playing those mental games, to start thinking about that grand finale, and that will be very much at the forefront of each one of these 4 drivers' minds. And as you say, Chaz, because we've got Grigas with a 15-second penalty to be applied, he's out of contention, both in terms of the timing charts and also the physical gap back from Schiesel. So they're in a good place to squabble amongst themselves, and they've got a little bit of wiggle room in order to have that fight and not worry too much about bringing the rest of the field into contention. As we look at Leonardo Grigas now doing a good job in 5th position. Not sure why the 15-second penalty. I can assume it's potentially track limits has been applied, but Grigas, he'll be kicking himself whatever the reasoning for sure.
Yeah, he absolutely will be. I mean, the fact that we don't have pit stops in this race means that they don't get a chance to serve anything like that in the pits, so the penalties will just be given to, or given in a way that affects their overall race time, as Magnani tries to find a gap that, in my eyes, wasn't there, to be honest. He just tries to open the door over Nicola Desi just in front. Nicola manages to keep the car on the road very well, actually, to be fair. I'm sure the overalls, the virtual overalls of Desi now match the colour of the car after that one, thanks to Magnani trying to go through on the left-hand side. But both of them live to fight another day, and if that fighting continues, the car behind them, which also has a 5-second penalty, again, apt because it's car number 5, is going to be right in the picture. But look at this, Magnani was very late on the brakes there, and some of them, I think we saw a little bit of this at Paul Ricard. I was going to say that usually as a driver, when you're chasing somebody in front, you have to consider the compromise of braking earlier than you normally would because of the car in front, to just tidy it up a little bit, make sure you don't run into the back of them. We see a lot of drivers, no matter what level they're at within sim racing, they're so tuned into what they're doing and where they want to brake and how late and how they're going to turn the car in. It's almost robotic behaviour that sometimes it's like they forget there's a car in front of them because they're focused on their own lines. And you would have thought it'd be something easy to do, but I suppose with the pressure of the situation, knowing that they have to get these places gained, it's a very savage tournament, I'd say, because it's almost like a karting sense of you either win or you don't. Because it's not all about championship points, is it, Paul? You can't sit there in ninth and go, oh yeah, I'll get X amount of points for this, that's fine. You have to be 4th, 3rd, 2nd or 1st, or nothing. Like 5th is no better than 17th in this race.
And that's a really, really good way of putting it. Oh, what have you seen?
Desi's off. Desi's just gone way wide, hit the curb on the exit of Curva di Alboreto and gone flying into the wall. I'm not sure if there's damage to the car or how hard Nicola hit the wall there, but the positions have been thrown away, very much so.
And that just goes to show again, going back to the point that we made earlier, how very, very easy it is for everything to be looking good and then suddenly go completely wrong. Johannes Weiss, by the way, down into 20th position now, so he's lost a couple of positions off camera. He's chasing Bernardini for 19th at this moment in time. Weiss, of course, is the silver car that's in the slipstream for the run down into the chicane, too far away to make a move at this moment. He's going to track the green Lamborghini in front and then try and get the advantage off of the corner. It is so important at Monza to carry momentum, get a good launch off the corner. That will pay you back significantly for the next long inevitable straight that we've got coming through these tight, slow braking points on the circuit. Get that slipstream, get that advantage, and then get yourself into an overtaking position. But Gianluca Bernardini currently holding on to 19th position, and Johannes Weiss is having a nightmare. As I say that, Bernardini goes to visit the rumble strips and run off, but that's not quite enough of a mistake to put him under pressure just yet. But this Chaz has the air of inevitability about it in a squad in 19th, 20th position.
Yeah, it really does, and I think it's just going to be a case of when, not if, like you say. There's the when, and there's the if he'll get back on in the straight line. And yeah, eventually Johannes Weiss goes straight through. But of course, when it comes to the result sheet, he might still be behind Bernardini because he's got that 5-second penalty lingering over him. So not an easy time to beat Johannes Weiss, to say the least. Here's Ivan Stella now, the Ukrainian driver, chucking it down the inside. Car number 3 for this event, one of the highest seeds in the field, trying to get past Nicola Desi, who I'm not sure whether has damage or not after that contact with the wall earlier on. We didn't quite see how big a hit it was. David Kolotchai has been very opportunistic in this race and is now waiting in the wings in car number 6. Speaking of wings, there's the gorgeous rear wing on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo 2 Huracan, as again we have a driver trying to find the outside line. It was just clumsy by Ivan Stella. There was not a gap there. You don't need to make these gaps. I know what they're trying, because you want to be on the outside for that first chicane at the first part to then have the inside for the second part. But it's just, if there's not a car's width there, you cannot make one up, I'm afraid. And it's just that, I mean, it's inexcusable to be doing that, I'm afraid. It really is. You can argue that maybe Nicola moved over to the left a little bit, but it's not like there was an overlap to begin with, Ivan. So, yeah, I'm not in agreement with that one, I'm afraid. And if anything, Nicola's not too far behind. Ivan should just give the place back.
Yeah, and actually, you're right, Nicola Desi, despite the heavy contact with the wall, he's still very much in touch with this little battle, so he'll be kind of half relieved that everything didn't work out quite as bad as it could have done, but now Kolotchai has himself an opportunity to find a way past. He will have seen very clearly what's just happened, so he'll be slightly nervous on Ivan Stella when he makes this move. Stella goes to the inside. Will he wander back over the racetrack? No, he holds his line very nice indeed. Manages to get through the chicane pretty decently, although runs wide on the second portion, and the third bit loses the rear of the car, and that is a slam dunk overtake for Kolotchai. So Stella good in the first portion, mistake in the second, paid for it in the third, and the end result is up 1, down 1 for the yellow Lamborghini.
Yeah, that looked fantastic from Kolotchai's perspective, though, didn't it? He set that up so beautifully. Just didn't worry about the fact that Stella was defending the inside line. Just took a wide line, cut across, made sure he had a run on the exit, and that was beautiful stuff. Now, I really hope we don't see any form of retaliation here, but we can't put it past them this evening. Someone's all, well, I don't know what they've been feeding him, but it's certainly been something to rile them up tonight. But Ivan Stella now in front of Nicola Desi. Nicola's going to try and go to the outside line. That's where the gap is this time, and Nicola finds it round the outside. Turns in a bit early, though. Ivan Stella tries to get through. Nicola leaves no room on the exit, and it's all a little bit gloves off right now. And you can imagine that that's not going to be the end of it if Ivan Stella can catch back up again. But Kolotchai is going to be loving life right now, because he's managed to get past both of these drivers while they're tearing clumps off each other. Or, sorry, taking lumps out of each other. But at the same time, he's just managed to move on forward. He's not going to be the happiest person in the world, though, because he's only up one place from where he actually started this race, is David Kolotchai. But still, he's got a bit of clean air in front of him now. 4 seconds to Stimoli, which is negated by the fact that Stimoli's got a 5-second penalty. We've not mentioned number 5 car much, to be honest, in this race. And then, of course, Magnani isn't too far up the road either. So, with this pace, Kolotchai could definitely challenge that top 4, I'd say. But it's just a case of how good the traffic is to him on his way up to the top.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. In effect, he's pretty much running in 8th position if we stop the race now, based on the time penalties of the 2 drivers in front. We also have track limits in ACC, as we all know very well. You go over the track limits too many times, the simulation will award you a time penalty. Potentially, there's more to be gained from other people falling into difficulty in that situation. So Kolochai still has a lot to race for and still has a potential to try and get himself in to that top 4, but Marco Lome at the front of the field now extends his lead to 2.7 seconds from Polavchuk in 2nd place. Chiriello holding on to 3rd, has the fastest lap of the race just ahead of Schiesel in 4th position. Pozniakov, P5, is the first of the drivers that will be the most disappointed at the checkered flag if things stay as they stand in 5th. Grigis, with that 15-second penalty, is 6th. And Sorrow, not really a tale of sorrow, but maybe a tale of frustration in 7th place, a little bit further away than he would like to be to the points-paying positions in that top 4 with Magnane. Close company, 1.6 seconds in arrears.
Yeah, and we're of course going to keep our eye on Stimoli and then Kolochai as well. Here's Riccardo Di Marchi, another driver that'll be frustrated up to this point of the race. Multiple contact from drivers earlier on. It's Di Marchi and Di Mori. Sounds like an Italian firm of investors, doesn't it? But still, the pair of them now glued together behind the number 9 machine of Jacopo Grillo. And he's going to be watching his mirrors thinking these cars are a similar colour to mine as well. They're all different shades of green right now as they all concertina up into the chicane. There was nearly contact behind, but again, Di Marchi just trying everything he can, pushing well too hard in these moments into the braking zones, and it's just easy as a driver to overdo it like that. You can see the big damage on the front of Grillo's car as well. I think based on our different angles, Grillo's car on one of our replays was white before, because he was the one that of course was facing the wrong way earlier, drove head on into traffic. The front end is hanging off of that Super Trofeo Evo 2. It still looks fantastic, but still, it's not quite the Lamborghini that it was when it came out of the factory. Speaking of said factory, if you want to be entered into a final event at the end of the season, or a final draw at the end of the season, I should say, you can scan the QR code on the right hand side of your screen and you can win either a €300 or €150 voucher to be spent at the online Lamborghini store just by watching this event. You've got nothing to lose in doing so, but every time you enter over the course of the season puts you into a grand final draw when the season comes to a close, and you can win yourself a VIP experience with Lamborghini. So if you like these cars and you want to get to see them up close in real life, then you can certainly do so by just entering on the right hand side. Speaking of the right hand side though, Paul, Di Marchi on the right hand side of Di Mori. I can't remember which one's which.
Yeah, Di Marchi, this has got the advantage now, and Di Mori, a little bit of, I think that might have been a bit of netcode that we saw there, but Di Marchi has the inside line for the run down into the chicane. Will they give each other enough racing room? No, they don't, because it's idiot juice day today, so let's tap each other into the braking zone at almost maximum velocity. Fortunately, both drivers get away with that one, and Di Marchi takes the position as well. A little bit of flexion of muscle there into the braking area, dangerous and risky all in one fell swoop. We're looking at Leonardo Grigis, has himself a 15-second time penalty. He's now under pressure from Nicola Sorrow in 6th. Sorrow will be pleased because Pozniakov just ahead is our latest driver to receive a 15-second time penalty. So in effect, Sorrow is squabbling for 5th position, even though it's 6th on track.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? It's really, really odd to see it like this, but still, part of the fun, it's part of the excitement, and it really does spice things up for the drivers around them as well. Grigis trying to find every bit of grip that he can. There might be some out there in the gravel trap one day, Sunshine, but not quite at this moment in time. You can see Sorrow there in the pink car just behind this pair, waiting in the wings, almost the exact same colour as the bright number 3 on our timing tower for Ciriello, who's done the fastest lap of the race so far around here at Monza. It's not easy to get a lap together here at Monza. That's the strange thing about it, because there's so much of a run required out of each of these chicanes. You have to absolutely nail it time after time, and you've got so long on these straights and the massive flat out sections of the course that you can get in your own head about it. You can just remind yourself and say, look, there's a corner coming up, by the way, there's still a corner coming up, you might go a bit deep on the brakes, and you've got more time than you should have to think about when you're going to brake. And I mean, I'm quite pathetic behind the wheel, Paul, there's a reason I'm a commentator, but at the end of the day, it's just about having the mental strength to overcome that, isn't it? It sounds really, really like a minor thing, but it's not as a driver, especially at this level, is it?
No, you're absolutely right. When you're on the limit and when you're racing at this kind of level, everything becomes second nature. You don't think about what's happening. It just happens. It becomes muscle memory. You fall into your subconscious and you allow yourself to naturally flow behind the wheel. And you're absolutely right. With these long straights, flat out sections doing nothing, it gives you that dangerous amount of time to think and then overthink what's happening. Riccardo De Marchi is overthinking this move and decides better of it. Good move, slips back in behind the rear of Grillo. So De Marchi lives to fight another day. Somebody runs a little bit wide over the chicane as well, so that moves both of those cars up one position as well. So De Marchi takes him up position without having to make the pass, but he really does fancy the bike of Grillo's machine. And it looks like De Marchi at this moment in time has the more pace, certainly has the car in better condition at this stage in the race. But will that be enough to give him the slipstream down this back straight now into the Ascari chicane? Not a conventional overtaking position. De Marchi shows the nose at the inside, thinks better of it, stays in the slipstream again, looks to get the run through this next section of corners. Concentration face back on following the dramas earlier on. And let's be fair, Shaz, this has been quite a good recovery drive for De Marchi to keep his head in the game and continue pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he looks very angry. He's just very focused. Maybe he's just one of those drivers that does look angry when he's right behind the wheel. As the number 9 machine now, Grillo goes deep. He's sold him a dummy. And DeMarco, well, he may be turning his head, but his eyes are very much focused on the prize in the middle of whatever screen he's looking at right now. And he's got that car tucked right up behind him. He's almost bump drafting him down the start-finish straight. You don't want to really be doing that in these sorts of cars that are mid-engined with a big shovel nose on it as well that's so low down with the rear end very high up. But again, De Marchi just moves over on the brakes a little bit over to the left hand side, and Grillo goes for an absolute hot dog off the edge of the first corner. And it's unnecessary. I mean, there is an element of it where the car will be moving around on the brakes. I get that, and you know,
accommodate for it though.
Yeah, exactly. They run very rearward brake bias at a high level because of the fact that it stops the car quicker. You can get that bit of rotation. We're going to have a look as well at car number 19 that went around at turn 1. We're going to see exactly what happened here. This is Nicola Desi that went around a little bit earlier on the race, Paul. Just late on the brakes, shoved through the chicane. And the worst thing for Desi there is that cutting that chicane, Nicholas going to be the one that gets the penalty.
Yeah, that is the frustration, isn't it? So Francesco Adamu, that we're looking at, was in 16th position, will drop down the order now, of course, due to that little spin. In fact, was in 12th position, I think. Looking at the timing screen, is now in 16th. By the way, Foresti is in pit lane, so Foresti serving a drive-through penalty. I can only assume that is for a track limits infringement. That's put a real dampener on what's been a bad day. And Pozdenarkov, that we saw with the 15-second penalty up in 5th, is all the way down in 21st position now, so some kind of drama has befallen the number 7 machine. So we're getting drama all the way through the field. Simon De Murray, currently free of all that drama in 12th position, has a nice gap to Stefanella just behind. And quick shout out to everybody watching at home as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us during this broadcast. Drop us a line, drop us a comment in the chat, and I'll try and keep an eye on it and answer any questions that you may have as the broadcast unfolds over the next 28 minutes.
So we've got 2 cars in the pits, we've got 5 cars with penalties, and we've got still the same 4 at the front of the pack that we had when the race started, and it's led by Marco Lomi right now, doing an amazing job. 3.5 seconds clear of Polovchuk. Polovchuk's been brilliant in himself as well. But would you look at Ciriello in 3rd place, fastest lap of the race, 1.4 seconds behind 2nd position, but the number 20 implying the fact that he was 20th in the qualification this week. And that's the thing, if you are considering qualifying for this sort of event, for this championship, go and do it. Even if you just get in by the skin of your teeth in 24th place, like Johannes Weiss did this week, you still have until the 26th of June, 10 a.m. CEST, to get in for the next round at Barcelona. And I tell you what, it's worth it. It really is worth it. What have you got to lose by giving it a go? If you do get in, you could have a fantastic race night. Fortune may be in your favour on the evening, and you could have a great time of it. Don't forget as well that you may see the top 4 in this race and think, flipping heck, I could never get on their level. They're not going to be anything to worry about if they continue on, because they're going to qualify through to the Nürburgring, and that shifts everybody else up 4 spaces. And I think that's one of the real elements of this series that, until I've said it out loud now, Paul, I think I've overlooked, if I'm honest with you. But still, that's what keeps it exciting. There's always new people at the front.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And David Kolachai wants to be one of those new people at the front. He's in 9th position, but Stamoli just ahead for the run down into the chicane now. Can Kolachai get side by side? Yes, he can. And he has the inside line. And is the last of the late breakers as well. Gets the car stopped just about for the chicane. Nicely done for David Kolachai. Great overtake, very, very clean into the first chicane. But he has got a drive-through penalty, so that is all for absolutely nothing, as we're about to take a look at a replay of Adamu and what went off just one lap ago that put him in strife. This is car number 16 with Hard on the gas, runs a little bit wide, dips 2 wheels on the dirty stuff. That's enough to pirouette the car around. Good avoidance by the other driver there as well. And Adamu, simple mistake Chaz to make here at Monza, happens all too frequently, a huge price to pay.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, through the Lesmos, you're really on the limit. You're pushing as hard as you can. They're 2 of the most difficult corners on the circuit, and it's all about commitment through there, especially the second one, because of the way that it's got this camber, but then the curb on the inside levels it out, can really bounce the car wide. And even then, it's almost like you're grinding a rail on a skateboard when you're on the exit through there, because it's over a little crest where all the curbs and the runoff area is. So you've got to be really, really on it and ready to catch the car. I mean, I've seen, as I'm sure both of us have, Paul, seen many a car and many a driver get overcorrected coming off there, expecting the car to slide, expecting it to step out, and then throwing it off into the scenery on the right-hand side, behind the trees, behind the cameras, out of view, and luckily out of anywhere where we can see the driver's head in their hands. But still, Marco Lomi, well, he's not had any of that so far, has he? Touchwood. Look how late he is on the brakes. He's turning him really early as well, because he doesn't have to worry about any other cars dive bombing him or trying to squeeze through. As Polovchuk makes a mistake, he goes over the chicane. Is that going to open things up to Ciriello in 3rd position? The Ukrainian just showing a little chink in the armour for a second there. He's just apparently been having a few laps where he's been just making the odd mistake here and there, Paul. Maybe a bit of just fatigue getting in on the race. I know it's not the longest race in the world, but you've got to focus so hard. We mentioned it last week at Paul Ricard, the fact that, yes, it is still physical. It may not be the real thing that a lot of us all aim to do one day, but still, it's just all about the fact that it's very mentally taxing as well. You still have to do the physical interactions with the wheel and the pedals and all the audio cues and so on. Interesting to see he's got one headphone on though. He's got his headset pulled back, so he's got one ear exposed still. That's interesting to see.
And you mentioned a word there that I think is a fabulous way to sum it up: fatigue. You're right, it's not the most physically demanding task to race at Monza in a virtual space, but the problem that Pavlo Polovchuk has, congratulations I suppose, he's in the no man's land in second position. He's not got the pace or the track position alongside Lomi ahead, so he's not fighting for the win, and up until a lap ago, Ciriello was quite a distance behind as well. You've got nothing to do other than stroke the car to the checkered flag. And that's when mistakes start to come in. When you race at this level, when you're of these talents, you are pushing 110% all the time. And if you get that focus taken away from you, the need to push at 110%, you start making mistakes, you start being a little bit too conservative, then you push a little bit too hard, and then little issues slip in. And we've seen that from Polovchuk being scruffy the last couple of laps. That's not going to be a problem, though, for Polovchuk, because now he's got Ciriello painted to the back of him. So his eyes will be wide open, and all of a sudden it's concentration time for the last 23 minutes with Leonardo Rodriguez that we're looking at now in 6th position. Sorrow just ahead. Rodriguez has 15 seconds that will be applied to his overall race time at the checkered flag. It's fighting on track, but in reality, he's out of contention now. So Sorrow will recognise that one. We'll hope Rodriguez stays well away from the bright pink Audi, because Sorrow is the first man to benefit should some drama befall our drivers ahead.
We've got 7 drivers now with penalties. We've had a drive-through for Foresti. He's come into the pits and parked it. Grillo has had 10 seconds. He's parked it as well. 15 seconds Rodriguez, as mentioned. Stimoli's got 5. Alberto Mugavero's got 10, and then Weiss has got 5 of his own as well. So it's been attritional, not just in the form that we've had a couple of drivers out of the race, but the fact that there's so many penalties on offer here as well at Monza, and with the amount of corners less that this place has compared to Paul Ricard, you would have expected this to be the tidier of the two, but I suppose there's more implication for drivers to really push like mad everywhere around a track like this, so we'll have to keep our eye on how they behave in the later stages. Polovchuk's actually disappeared away from Ciriello again. The gap's opened up by quite a few tenths of a second. You can see Sheezel's just sat in the background there, just watching all of this going ahead of him. He's in the perfect place. He's got 10 seconds over Sorrow behind. Sorrow's battling with drivers that are going to be thrown out by the fact that they've got big penalties. So Sheezel's just loving it, I'd say, right now. 4th place will do the job. That's all you need to do.
It will, but that's a bit of the same issue that we saw for Polovchuk as well. You've got nothing to really focus on, so it's so
true.
easy to throw it away, to make a mistake, to fall outside of that zone that we spoke about earlier, that kind of sixth sense of driving. And as you say, Chaz, you're not thinking about what you're doing, and if you're in that no man's land, you can suddenly start to think, oh God, I hope my internet holds up, or oh, there's a corner coming here, I've got to make sure I'm nice and neat. And as a lesser driver than these guys, often I have different apps that I don't know if I'm allowed to name, so I won't name them, but there's a man that talks to me via an app and tells me what's happening in the race, and I'll be having a great race, and he'll come on saying, hey Paul, great race, keep it up. The second I hear that, it all goes wrong. Because it's like, well, I'm having a good race, aren't I? Damn it, now I'm thinking about it. Yeah. And that's a little bit what these guys have to contend with. But of course, they're many degrees more talented than you and I are, sadly, as Leonardo Rodriguez is still holding on, although goes a little bit wide, as we say that one, but survives in the 15 in 6th position.
Well, I mean, I can make it through that chicane, Leonardo. I don't know what you're doing there, mate. I'm only joking.
Yeah, but 3 seconds slower than that guy, which is a big difference.
Yeah, he's probably doing a good few kilometres an hour more than I am. Yeah,
a good few kilometres too many by the looks of it, hence the reason that he went wide over the curves.
Very, very true, very true. But yes, I think the fatigue's still setting in for a number of these drivers a little bit further down. Like I was hinting at before, it's not the longest race in the world, but still it's 40 minutes where you're all on your own and you're pushing like mad to get only a set number of positions. It's not a case of sideways it was for Ascari there. It's not one of these races where you can sit in 6th place and go, yep, that's good championship points for me and the team, let's go on to the next round. It's a case of, oh sugar, I've got now one less race to finish 4th or above.
Especially if the next race is a bogey track for you and you're not confident to get in that top 24. There's no guaranteed progression into the next qualifying session, so you might be 5th and think, okay, I'm in 5th position, I've not qualified, but I am the top man, in effect, that didn't get through. And you go to the next track and you don't get in the top 24, and then it's game over for you. But Chaz, quick question for you. These drivers, 60-minute race, pushing at the limit. What's tyre life like in these cars? How fine is the balance going to be coming into this final portion of the race? Are we going to be struggling? Are they going to be comfortable? What will they be experiencing behind the wheel now at this point?
I think based on what Durkop was actually telling us, last week's winner, it seems like the car has a sort of stint in the middle where the tyres do start to feel a little bit shoddy and they really start to scrub quite a lot and the temperature gets very high. But then once you get used to that, it's all about adaptation, isn't it? You get used to the tyres feeling awful later on in the race. As long as they don't go off a cliff really quickly, you can just get used to where you may go through a corner in a different gear, or you may just take a little bit longer to slowly and smoothly apply the throttle, be a bit more gentle on the brakes. You know, you get used to it gradually over a 1 hour race. So I think with the drivers, it's all about identifying that, because it's too easy again to ignore it. Slowly find yourself adjusting subconsciously, and then all of a sudden you'll, like we said before, you'll wake up all of a sudden and become self-aware of what you're doing. Rather than get into a rhythm and be all robotic, you'll suddenly go, oh God, I've got to brake, and then you'll brake where you would have normally broken at the start of the race, because that's what your mind can last remember, and you'll be off in the trees. And it's so easy for the drivers to forget about that in terms of tyre life and that adaptation. It happens subconsciously most of the time. So those that are talented, anyway, I say this like I speak from experience, I certainly don't. But, it's one of those moments where you've just got to sort of let it happen, if that makes sense. It seems like a very laid-back way about it, but it's inevitable that the tyres will wear. You just have to deal with it. And certain drivers can do that better than others, and I think that's why we get such a differential in pace at the end of the race, because not only do some of the drivers look after the tyres better than others, but those that know how to handle absolutely destroyed tyres are the ones with an incredible amount of talent when it comes to the last sort of 10 and 15 minutes like we're getting into now.
Yes, part of the skill set, isn't it, of a professional driver, is to be able to manage all of the aspects around the full race distance. While you've been saying all that one, Lucio Alberto Mogavero has himself a 10-second time penalty attached to his name. He's currently running in 10th position, so that's going to knock him down a good handful of places. And We see a top 10. There's almost no point going through this top 10 now because everything's going to change after the checker when the time penalties are applied. But fortunately, in terms of qualification, that's not something that's affected our top 4, and it's certainly not affected Marco Lome, who now has almost 6-second advantage at the front of the field, which is fabulous to see, and a really dominant performance at this point.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Really, really awesome stuff to see from Marco Lome. It's lovely that he's been able to come back from Paul Ricard, where obviously it all went wrong, and it was very difficult for us to watch the fact that he had such a torrid time of it, and he's been able to get back on the horse and put in a great performance so far. That's just, no one's been able to touch him, have they? We had this great run through the field from Durkop in the last race when the conditions changed. It showed a different skill set in different conditions, but Marco's had everything stay on a nice level for him so far, just to check if, he's, I don't know how to explain, but...
Oh, Chaz, sorry to interrupt, but look at this battle now for second and third position. Polovchuk was quite comfortable just a lap ago, a couple of seconds up the road from Ciriello, but now these two are very much in the same postcode and very much fighting for position, which is worrying for Polovchuk because he's looked uncomfortable, it's fair to say. A 51.665 on his last lap, so a good couple of 3 seconds away from the pace. So a mistake now. Can Polovchuk recover, and can Ciriello use this to his advantage? This is a man under pressure in P2.
Yeah, it really is, and I mean, it may not look like he's too much under pressure, but that might be a bit of nerves right now. He's still got that one headphone on his headset, which I find very, very odd. I think that could be a colossal distraction, because I'm not sure about you, Paul, but when I'm wearing a headset, I always have both on. I hate it when I have to take one off, because you get that imbalance of audio, and yeah, sure, you might want to hear whether your takeaway's arrived or not, but that's not something that these guys want to worry about right now, to be honest with you. He's got Corrado Ciriello closing in, and it's not subtle, that car. I mean, none of these are, to be honest with you, but still, that bright purple machine is getting closer and closer. You can see he's pushing as well. He smells blood in the water now. He wants to get that place off him. I was trying to explain, before about Lome, that usually there's a bit of a sort of spike in the level of what you need to bring to the table in a race like this, but right now it's just ticking over nicely for him, and he doesn't have to change anything or adapt or worry about conditions or anything like that. Nothing's going to come out of the blue and just strike like lightning for him as, oh dearie me, that's Federico Stevanella, well, off and out of the race, instantly teleported there back to the pits.
So something did come out of the blue for Stevanella, and that was the gravel trap, unfortunately, and that's exactly the worry that these guys are going to have. If you're Ciriello, you're in third position, you smell blood in the water, as you say, you see an opportunity, but you're also very conscious that you can throw away your qualification spot, so you've got to have that in the back of your mind. And this is a bit of a pressure point now, 13 and a half minutes, just over, still to go. Polovchuk is in second position, 1.3 seconds. He's extended that gap a little bit over the course of the last lap. A 1 minute 49.9 plays a 1 minute 50.6. So the pace is there, but Polovchuk just needs to deliver it on a more consistent basis and cut out those little mistakes, and Ciriello will be interested. But I fear, Chaz, and I don't know what your take is on this, if I'm Ciriello, I'm just going to be close enough to put Polovchuk under pressure, but not look to make a physical overtake and look for a free pass from a mistake.
100%, absolutely right. I don't think he needs to force the issue here. He just needs to sit where he is and just watch Polovchuk from a distance. He's got a decent gap of a few seconds over Schiesel behind, and even if, worst case scenario, Schiesel gets through, he's then got 10 seconds to Sorrow, who's got a 15-second penalty of his own. They've got 25 seconds to play with, and regardless of how far they fall back into said 25-second gap, they're still going to the Nürburgring at the end of July. So right now, Ciriello is in a really comfortable position. He's got a bit of a mental upper hand on the car ahead of him. He's got a decent gap to the car behind, and then nobody else to challenge them for a long, long time. So, yeah, great place to be right now for Ciriello. And I do envy him, to be honest, to be in such a comfortable place in a race, especially after nearly 45 minutes done here at Monza. It's a great, great position to be in. And, well, I don't envy Polovchuk right now, because despite that huge gap, all it takes is for one of these mistakes to be at a very high-speed section of the circuit to really throw him off, put him in the wall, and like we saw with Stevanella a moment ago, that could be it. We've got more penalties coming in, Paul, and I saw a moment ago they're all for causing a collision, so the argy-bargy is not going unnoticed.
Right, so what are we looking at here? This is a little bit of drama. This is a late dive down in a chicane, and very good driving indeed from Stefanella to just about bail out of that one and give him the racing room as we run down now. And Stefanella looks to make an attack, emboldened somewhat by the ability to get out of the way, and then just shovels the 24 being Jonas Weiss off the track. So I give him some credit, and now I would give him a virtual slap of the hand, and that is Jonas Weiss, who's been in all the drama in the whole wide world, is currently in 13th. Chaz, I posted a question quickly into the chat on YouTube saying, if you was Ciriello in third position, would you fight for that second, or would you hold your position? Something has come back always, and Coadromo's come back if the opportunity presents itself, but it's not worth sending it. Wise advice, and I think somebody needs to jump on Discord and tell these guys, because I have a feeling that level of self-preservation doesn't exist so much today.
No, it really doesn't, honestly. It is, like I said before, someone has told these guys they've got a 3-lap sprint. That's what it seemed like. Yeah. It's like every time they go across the line, someone's there saying, right guys, last lap, go on, get on with it. Like, it's almost as if they have had no time to get any moves done, and they didn't realise that we were going in for another hour-long race. It's like someone took a 0 off it and said, oh, it's 6 minutes, guys. That's 2 laps round here with a warm-up lap. So it's been a real shame to see it, but at the same time, there have been a couple of drivers that have made their way through the pack and kept it nice and clean, and I won't say completely made up for it, because obviously the drivers involved are getting a slap on the wrist for what they're getting at the moment and the way that they're driving and so on, but it's still been nice to see that amongst all of that, there have been some really solid performances this evening. And the beautiful bit, even on top of that, this is the real cherry on top of the pile of cream that's on this cake right now that I'm making verbally. Lomi, Polovchuk, Ciriello, Schiesel, none of them have put a foot wrong. Polovchuk may be making the odd mistake here and there, but it's still a solid enough drive compared to what the rest of the field have been doing, and they're the ones that are getting the best reward for it as well, in a position at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, great stuff. There's a mistake there. So big catch on the slide, goes to the escape road, does Mugavero, and wow, if you were a little bit tired, a little bit not quite focused, that will have alerted all of the sensors and then some more. And that is a fantastic catch from Mugavero. If our broadcast director's listening, if we can catch that one on board on a replay, if at all possible, I would love to see the speed of the hand reaction, almost Pato O'Ward-esque, to keep that car pointing in a straight line. And Mugavero, very grateful indeed there was an escape road to go down, and holds on to 10th position. But yes, that was very much a contender for save of the season already, just in the second race of this new Lamborghini The Real Race Super Trofeo Esports campaign.
Absolutely is. I mean, if we do get a replay, I think I'm going to hold on to my monitors as well on my desk when it happens, just in case they go flying. But yeah, it's great to see that early on in the season. And of course, we give a big thanks to AK Esports and Assetto Corsa Competizione as well, which is the platform that we are racing on here at Autodromo at Nazionale di Monza. It's great to see that we have it in such a well-represented and well-recreated form. The realism here is lovely to see. And don't forget, you can scan the QR code on the right-hand side if you want to win either a €300 or €150 gift card to be spent online at LamborghiniStore.com. But right now, Paul, well, it's time to hold your monitors, because we are going to have a replay of that incredible save by our driver down at Turn 1, Mugavero.
So let's have a watch the steering wheel now. So goes back to what he thinks is the racing line, dips the wheel off, 1, 2, 3 and a bit, and then manages to get through the bollards as well. That's not an easy task, to say the least. Hard on the gas again. That is a good save. And anybody knows that's done any kind of real racing or virtual racing at Monza, the speed and velocity you go down into that braking zone, you're braking on the absolute limit, not an inch further will get you onto the apex. To catch the car, to have peace of mind and awareness to find the escape road, and to navigate your way through the bollards as well. Superb. I really enjoyed that one, and thank you, Steve, our broadcast director, for teeing up that replay so quickly. Awesome stuff as always behind the scenes.
And my desk didn't flip over, so again, thank you. But yeah, it was important as a save in more than one way as well, because of the fact that he didn't completely overdo it. He didn't go full lock to the right or full lock to the left. He put the perfect amount on that would catch the car and spring it back in the direction enough that he could then again compromise for it and just make the changes. It was gentle, and that's what it's got to be. It's really, really tasty. We've got Daniel on replays as well, Daniel Costello behind the scenes. Thank you to Daniel, who's been capturing those for us. It's been wonderful to work with Daniel again, actually. It's been over a year since I've worked with him, so it's fantastic to be a part of this, I must admit. Thank you, Paul, and everybody around me. It's great, great fun. We've actually lost a number of cars right now, haven't we, Paul? We've gone down to 20... Well, we started at 22, I should say. Now 16, unfortunately, due to retirements. Look at... Sorry, Johannes Weiss completely sideways there through Ascari. Most of the field with penalties. If you're tuning in at this point, you're going to be wondering what's gone on.
And I'll tell you what's gone on. Everything. I'm not recapping.
Absolutely.
We've had overtakes, we've had drama, we've had great racing, we've had poor racing, we've had contact, we've had a runaway race leader, now down to 6.5 seconds for Marco Lome, but I think that's more a case of managing pace than anything that needs to be particularly concerning. Last time around, a 1 minute 50.207 for Lome, a 1 minute 49.9 second lap for Plavchuk, so similar in pace, and Lome, as I say, managing the pace at the front of the field. Ciriello is dropping back from Pavlychuk now, so third position. Looks like, it feels like it's content for Ciriello to stay in there and get that qualification spot, and Shizel had nothing to do pretty much all race apart from just watch the drama in front, and continues on his merry way in the fourth and final qualification spot. But Rosario Stimole, that we're looking at in 8th position, he's got the lesser of the penalties of those around him, so he's racing Grigas ahead on trike, but we'll take that by default when Grigas' 15-second time penalty is applied by our live stewards at the end of this race.
Yeah, there's a lot still to come, isn't there? We've got just under 5 minutes left to go here at Monza, and there is going to be a good few changes, I can say that, to at least whet the appetite slightly into these final stages. But well, the penalties are going to do a bit more than I think the drivers will on circuit, but still they try to entertain us as best they can. Simon De Mori on our screens right now behind Lucio Alberto Mugavero, a little bit squirrely on the exit of Ascari, to say the least. But again, it's one of those commitment corners, isn't it, Paul? It's one of the key parts of the circuit where drivers have to set themselves up for a good run down to Curva di Alboreto and then another run down the start-finish straight. It's long-term overtakes at a track like this.
It is, and also the squirreliness that we saw, that is the virtue of this kind of car. It's a one make. It's the Super Trofeo car, of course. It's the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. Less downforce, less grip, less gadgetry on board than a GT3. So it's not the precision driving experience that we used to with GT3s. The car will naturally want to move about on the tyres a little bit more, will be a little bit squirrely on the throttle, will wander a little bit more on the brakes. That's just the nature of the beast. So for Simon De Mori, he's got that car very much on the limit in 11th position. Fancies a chance of breaking into the top 10 on the racetrack, probably even a little bit further up once penalties are applied. And De Mori only has 3.5 minutes left to find a way past the purple or pink, not sure what it is, Lamborghini in front, and he seems to have the pace at this moment in time. And as I say, Mugavero makes a mistake on corner exit. De Mori looks for the inside line almost immediately, then wisely thinks better of it, drops back behind again, but Mugavero again wide on corner exit. He's feeling the temperature, feeling the pressure now is Mugavero, and Simon De Mori has a great opportunity now on one of the many long straights here at Monza. The inside line is covered, the outside line is the only available opportunity. You don't want to be on the outside unless you are fully committed on the brakes. Can Simon De Mori get the deal done? He not quite, slips back behind again. Mugavero keeps the car very firmly planted in the middle of the racetrack, and Simon De Mori, face of concentration, lives to fight another day, but he's going to make it go either in Alboreto or, if he's wise, will save the Rettifilio as his next best opportunity.
That was great driving by De Mori, and again it's getting closer and closer on the brakes. Mugavero needs to be careful. That's his own doing there. De Mori's going to have contact with him again. It was just unnecessary. He didn't need to squeeze him down the inside into the final corner, and then look behind them. Kolotchai is going to say thank you very much. Is it Kolotchai that's behind him? It is, isn't it? In car number 6. He's going to come flying through now and take the pair of them.
As soon as it came out of my mouth, Chaz, when I was saying it, and if he's wise, he'll wait for the first chicane. I thought, why? Of course, no. Look at the form for today, and immediately there we go, slap bang, a bit of contact, and not a position gain, but actually a position lost, and a little bit of damage for good measure as well.
it was Bernardini in there as well. Apologies, it's not Kolotcha, of course. He's a couple of cars further back than that, based on the gap we saw earlier. But yeah, it was great driving by Demori because he set himself up for the exit of Ascari, and it was beautifully done. But then Alberto Morgavero just decided to move over on the inside. You don't want to squeeze yourself to the inside of Curva di Alboreto. Never mind both of you as well. But look, right now he's just pushing a bit too hard, and Demori's got to set himself up for once again another exit. Morgavero's really defending well, though. He's putting the car exactly where he needs to. It may not have been fantastic on the previous lap, but he's certainly struggling. He's pushing too hard now, and Demori's in his head. And well, now he's in his headlights as well. He's right in front of the number 21 machine. And there's... well, nicely picked up by our director, Steve. He's just straight off. That's Rosario Stimoli. And that is a massive hit into the wall. And typically as well, he's managed to do it in a place where there's only no tyre barrier. Straight into the metal Armco. There's a little gap where the metal Armco was. And Steve has even himself just said he's got no idea the timing of how he's managed to get that. But that was not a replay, everybody. That was live. That's live as well. And it's very much hard into the wall for Alberto Morgavero. But well, I hate to say it, Paul, but I think that's been coming for a couple of corners at least now.
Yeah, Morgavero's look like he's under pressure, looks like he's not comfortable with the car that he has underneath him, struggling on corner entry, struggling on exit. The worst of both worlds, isn't it?
Yeah.
In understeer on corner entry, oversteer on corner exit, then you start to heat the tyres up a bit more, which gives you even less grip, which puts you under even more pressure. Then he got overtaken, he's in the dirty area of the car in front, and it starts to lose your head a little bit. You don't have the balance, you don't have the confidence to do what you need to do in the car, and as you say, inevitable the eventual contact with the wall would come. But Morgavero still soldiers on in 13th position. Jonas Weiss moves up into 12th place now. Weiss is a driver that's had more than his fair share of over-exuberance and excitement over the course of this race. But Marco Lome, no such problem for Marco Lome. Car number 2, position number 1, comes down to Alboreto for the final time at the front of the field. A comfortable 5+ second gap, managing the end of the race. A little bit of a wiggle through the right-hander, but nothing to be dramatic about. Gets the throttle on, looks to his right-hand side, sees the checkered flag wave, and the Lamborghini, the real race, Super Trofeo Esports race victory goes to Marco Lome in dominant fashion at the front of the field. Pavlo Povachuk comes in second position ahead of Corrado. Sorello in third, and the last driver that gets their virtual golden ticket to the Nürburgring is Florian Schiesel in fourth position, a relieved and probably slightly bored fourth position following a quiet but effective race.
Yeah, that's a fantastic drive by Lome. That's exactly what he needed to come back with this time round, isn't it? He really didn't want to have a difficult time with, knowing how quick he was at Paul Ricard, to come back here and have to battle so hard for this. Obviously, it's not easy to do at all, but really, the fact that he managed to keep the car under control as well as he could at the front of the field, maintain that gap, beautiful drive. That is perfect, I have to say, from Marco Lome. And, well, not many people could touch him tonight, but Polovchuk, Chiriello and Schiesel as well going through in what was a very dramatic race, but not always, unfortunately, in the best of circumstances, Paul.
Yeah, it's a little bit spicy, I think it's fair to say, further down the field. But those top 4 drivers, the drivers that will be progressing through to the Nürburgring in July, were absolutely, as you say, faultless. And Lome at the front of the field, never put a foot wrong, converted into T1, which is the hardest part of the job. Get a good start, stay out of drama, don't run too deep, don't make mistakes. Perfect performance. And then I kept watching my timing screen, and it's just metronomic, fast lap, all within 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second maximum of each other, and all a good half a second faster than the rest of the field as we look at a few replays. And this is the start, Chaz, that we talked about. The front 3 separated by nothing. The pressure as our race leader you feel in this scenario, praying that nobody goes into the back of your car, but he spots his braking zone, he covers the inside line on both parts of the corner, uses the width of the circuit on corner exit as well, and just leaves absolutely no sniff of an opportunity for those behind to find a way past.
Yeah, it was perfect. Very well covered. It all went to pot behind them, of course, in the background. Looked very, very difficult. That, from Grillo was inexcusable. There was a few bits this evening, unfortunately, that were completely out of the usual behaviour we would have seen for our drivers. But there were some great battles in the middle of it as well, you know. While some of the defending may have been over the top, some of the sends may have been over the top, it was still entertaining for us. It's just a shame in terms of the driving standards to see it sometimes. That's a fantastic move around the outside into Curva di Alboreto there. And again, like I say, there was just the odd moment like this where contact just didn't need to happen. It's only minute details, though, and it's tiny little bits, but it's part of the motorsport that we know and love, you know. It's all on a knife edge. And the drivers, I think, tonight were just dancing over it a little bit too much, weren't they? They were tempting fate a little bit too much. But then again, coming back to it full circle, Paul, they just have to try these things, don't they? There's the moment for Stella off into the chicane. A massive, massive hit, but manages to get it back under control. It's just part of the competition, though, isn't it? The pressure's on now.
Yeah, the pressure's on. It's a learning experience for all of our drivers, and they're all taking these opportunities to learn and to progress their skill set. And I do believe we've now got our race winner, Marco Lome, to come and have a word with us. So in a few moments' time, when Marco's ready, in fact, here he is, Marco Lome, race winner. Congratulations. How does that feel?
That's amazing, guys. I can't believe it.
Now, you got pole position, you led from the start, and at one point you were 6-7 seconds up the road. Was that as easy as it looked on the broadcast?
Absolutely not. At least in the first part of the race, for like the first 25 laps, it was really good, and the car feels really, really good. And I managed to do like an 8 seconds gap, I think. And in the last part of the race, like the last 7 laps, I think, it was like undrivable. The rear tires was gone, I think. I haven't seen it when the race ended, but I think that there wasn't a tire anymore. So I'm so happy, and I want to congratulate also with the other 3 guys, especially with Pavlychuk, that is one of my teammates. And I'm so happy for the team also, because we've done an incredible job during this week, and I want to thank all of them.
Yeah, fantastic performance. So you said the tyres had gone away a little bit towards the end of the stint. Just how difficult was it to keep consistent lap times and keep the car on the circuit in those conditions under that kind of pressure as well at the front of the field?
Yeah, it isn't as easy as it looks. Not for who is driving, and yeah, as I said, the last few laps was undrivable. Especially, I think the rear left tire, which is one of the most difficult to keep good all over the race, and I am so happy about that. Yeah.
So last question from me then, Marco, and we'll let you go back and celebrate. You've now qualified for the Nürburgring Grand Finale. Have you ever raced in a top-level esports LAN event physically co-located with your rivals?
Yeah, it will be the first time in such an incredible.
Oh wow!
Such an incredible championship. I don't know what to say, but I've just done like the Lara Esports Championship in LAN. That's it was a very good experience, and I think it will. I'm very happy to have done it, because it will help me at Nürburgring.
Well, Marco, the Fanatec Arena in the GT World Challenge paddock will blow your mind, I'm absolutely sure. And I look forward to meeting you in person then. But for now, massive congratulations on your race victory. Go and cool down and get yourself a drink, and we'll see you at the Nürburgring in July. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. So there we go, Charles. What a pleased winner, and his first serious, big, high-profile LAN event as well for the final, which will be mind-blowing.
Well, absolutely, and you know we've seen Marco come out of the woodwork here for this championship. He's put it on pole twice at such a high level. He's been absolutely brilliant, and now we're going to get to see him unfold all of that talent in a LAN event as well and get to see it physically with his drivers around him as well, see what that added pressure does. And I think it's going to be, we wish him the best, but regardless of whether it goes well for him or badly for him, it's going to be interesting to see because it's not an environment we've seen him in before. So we have no recollection of any previous event that he's got to sort of learn from, if that makes sense. We've got, of course, the Delara event that you mentioned, but it's the fact that we've got all of these new drivers that are going to be racing each other in a LAN environment for the first time. I'm repeating myself a bit, but it's just there's so many elements to it that are hard to explain, aren't there? I mean, we've covered an event similar before that was a LAN event, and there's just so much buzz around it and so much added pressure, even for us as commentators and presenters, that it's just this amazing vibe that I cannot wait to see some of these drivers have to not put up with, but just soak up and then put a performance in on track.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've got a little bit of racing still to do before that time happens. So, as I mentioned during the live, qualification in ACC is open now in order to qualify for the next race. And that next race will take place on June the 29th. Same time, same place. So put a date in your diary. Make sure you come and join us. Follow us all the social media for the Lamborghini social media to get all the news, see the final results as well when the penalties are being applied. And make sure, of course, you register. You've seen the QR code on your screen a lot of times. It's been in the chat on YouTube. So register for the ability to win prizes and to take part in the competition as well. And Jazz, it's all pretty much over and done with. We've tried this 3 times and we've got it wrong on 3 occasions. So let's try it for a 4th and see if we can do it. So big shout out to AK Sport for putting this event on, for Lamborghini for providing incredible cars in this opportunity, and Assetto Corsa Competizione, of course, for being the platform of choice. And from me, Paul Jeffrey, and him, Jazz Draycott, thank you very much. And 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. Hey. They'll have learnt something. They'll have taken away a little bit of something for... did that just go up on the broadcast? That with me feet on my table in my box?